to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here, along with aerospace historian Michael Schratt. Are we going to ever get disclosure?
What we're going to do is our very best to illustrate the Leonard Stringfield cases in hopes that it will open up more doors for more whistleblowers.
You know, it's interesting because this coastline, many people have heard of crash retrievals or seen UFOs go down in the water. Do you think it's possible that there is some kind of maybe hidden civilization that exists from long ago?
Well, there is some evidence to indicate that the United States Navy retrieved USOs as early as 1941.
1941. What would it take to retrieve an underwater UFO? What kind of military event would that be? Would they be sending submersibles down and retrieve these craft?
Well, within the Ivan T. Sanderson collection, we've got reports of Japanese fishing trawlers who caught these USOs in their nets and brought them up. So it's not just the military, but civilians as well retrieving these.
So being that it's the anniversary of Roswell, there's a lot of people around that really dismiss this whole UFO field altogether.
Okay.
The Congress is finally getting into it, but what's it going to take to convince the masses, you know, America, the world, to really get behind disclosure and demand that we get these crash retrievals that they have in their possession to the public, in our hands?
It's going to take, really, it boils down to the credibility and reliability of the eyewitnesses, because if we can verify what these whistleblowers are telling us, it can lead us to the actual physical hardware. Once we get the physical hardware, we're done. We got it.
So when the military had an opportunity to actually retrieve these materials from crash retrieval, it wasn't expected, but they took advantage of it, right? That's kind of like how the military takes advantage of a situation on the battleground, unexpected. So now that they have these assets, which we believe that they do, how far advanced do you really think they are? Are they actually engaging our Navy fighter pilots out there over the Pacific? Is it blue on blue?
That's really the $64,000 question, Blake, is has the US government exploited the technology that they've retrieved and procured from these crash retrievals? Did they do anything with it? Did they make the breakthrough? Or are they just as lost today as they were when they recovered it in '47? But if you look at the newspaper clippings, it clearly shows that some type of a breakthrough was made at least by October 1954. So if they've thrown billions of dollars into R&D funding into these programs, they're going to get something for their money.
I know recently you've had commissioned some artwork in regards to some of the crash retrieval, and we're going to be looking over that in detail in just a moment. But what inspires you to go out there and have these artistic representations of these historical events?
I'm just as interested as everybody else, and I want to see it in real life, and the closest thing we can do is to commission high quality artwork to make it come alive. That's why I do it.
Well, let's go take a look at some of that right inside our pad over here and look at the evidence. All right, Michael, I see you brought your collection, and I know these haven't been seen before. You have not recently had these commissioned, and we're excited to share it right here on Third Phase of Moon, so let's get it started.
Okay, cool. Why don't we start here? So this is 1946, before Roswell, and this was at Wright Field, Dayton, Ohio. There was a courier who was delivering a package, and a friend of his was a guard at the facility, at the base there. And this guard, it's interesting that he got access to this, but this guard told his courier friend, why don't you come follow me? So he brought him into this hangar, and what was seen on the floor was about a 20-foot diameter dish-shaped craft. It had a series of rectangular windows around the outer circumference of the craft. You could see through the craft into the interior, and there was a central column that started at the bottom of the craft that went all the way up to the top portion of the upper portion of the craft. And then he said that there was a folded tarp off to one side, and then there was an electric drill with diamond tipped drill bits. They were trying to breach the hull of the craft. So if you look at these crash retrieval cases, What I'm seeing is these patterns developing, and when we connect these dots, like these diamond tip drill bits, it looks like the government was desperate, and I'm talking really desperate, to breach the hull of this craft to exploit and learn and reverse engineer the propulsion systems.
Yeah, it's interesting because this was before 47, 41 he said, right?
46.
46, a year before Roswell. But it's interesting that they seemed that they were kind of set for 47 to bring these kind of the machinery to breach the hull. Obviously they failed. But it's interesting that we have these kind of sightings even to this day, especially in South America, Brazil, Colombia.
Right.
These kind of craft are still seen in the skies. Let's get to it next.
We'll get to the next one here.
So this is a massive catalog of material that's been pretty much separated for its unique purposes. What's going on in this shot here?
So the time frame here is 1955. It's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and this is a case within the Leonard Stringfield collection. Primary eyewitness, her job at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, believe it or not, was to catalog debris, which was first photographed, bagged, and tagged, and then her job was to catalog all this debris that came from these multiple crash retrievals. So this is 1955. She was cataloging retrieval operations prior to, so this would have been 41, could have been somewhere around 1953 timeframe, 1948 timeframe. Those crash retrievals would have been within this jurisdiction. And what you can see here, and this is drawn by Rudy Gardea, she also mentioned that there was this mobile cart that rolled by her, and she saw two alien beings that were about 3.5, maybe 4 foot tall max. Again, oversized head, oversized eyes, slit for a mouth, almost no nose, no ears to speak of. But if you look within the shelving here, we've included the debris, perhaps the propulsion system, of all these components that are in this Indiana Jones type closing scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what I was going to say. That's what this warehouse is full of. So when we hear congressmen and senators giving these congressional hearings about UFOs and UAP, and they don't know what they are, and they don't have any physical evidence, they don't have any hardware, well, take that up against this woman who cataloged these things. They've got the debris. Yeah,
this lady that was basically the archivist of the crashed debris. It's just like the Indiana Jones movie, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark at the very end. But is she still around? Can we contact?
She passed away. What her wording was, and this is kind of her exact words, is she gave the testimony to Leonard Stringfield, and then she basically said that, you know, I'm near the end of my life. I really don't have anything to lose. And her exact quotes were, once I'm in my grave, the government can't do anything to me. So that's why she let it out.
Incredible stuff here. Who wouldn't want to get into this archive?
Exactly.
And can't the Congress or Senate access this? Is it sensitive, compartmentalized information here, the SCI? And this is where Congress needs to tap into. This is where the evidence is at.
That's right.
I've seen this before. Fravor's seen this before. It looks like the Tic Tac, but a little bit, elongated at the very end and arrows. But definitely the Tic Tac. No means of propulsion.
Okay, so time frame is 1973. It is Great Lakes Naval Training Center, and this courier, this courier operation, he was basically told to deliver a package to one of the high-level military personnel at this facility. So he is escorted by 2 muscular CB-type guards. So they go down this corridor, they make a left-hand turn, they go down another corridor, and they're led into this large open warehouse type hangar that was in a Quonset style hut near the end of this base. That's where this actually took place. And when he got into this corridor, he said that he saw a teardrop shaped UFO. It was not a flying saucer, it was a teardrop shaped UFO. It was sitting on a 2 foot tall wooden pedestal. That's what you see right here. And then he said that there was a ridge that started on the leading edge that wrapped up all around the top portion of the craft and swept all the way to the back. And he said that the end of this thing tapered back to a point at the end. And he got a really good look at this craft. And what's interesting is, you know, we've got this propped up motif again. We have already heard about the scaffolding that was propped up, but here is this thing that, was it a USO? Was it a UFO? It would have transversed water very easily with this configuration.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, there's really no seam lines. It's like a one-piece mold.
Right.
And what did they say? It was made out of some kind of metallic substance, ceramic?
He said it kind of had this gloss exterior, but he also mentioned that there was a blue coronal discharge around the leading edge of the craft too. So
there's some kind of plasmic film
something going on
constantly around it.
Something going on. And this is 1973 at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center.
Incredible stuff here, and again, never before seen until now, right here at Third Phase of Moon. I know we got some more sketches here, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. Let's get to it.
Good. Okay, we just finished this one up very recently, and I really like this one because we put a lot of effort into this. Now, let me set this up. It's 1973, and an Air Force photographer who is reviewing and responsible for gun camera footage was sent to Norton Air Force Base in California, near Riverside, California, and he got onto like an Air Force car, and they drove an hour from Norton Air Force Base to kind of an undisclosed location where they parked on a platform, Blake. This platform lowered down into an underground facility. At that point, he was met with another photographer, and they both put on these laboratory one-piece white smocks that you would see at a laboratory environment. So now they're fully dressed. They go out of this room where they got dressed in, and they saw a crane inside this underground military facility. The crane had a cable that was connected to a netting device, and that netting was suspending about a 30-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that had an entryway hatchway. So they were put into a cherry picker and they were hoisted up to this interior here. And keep in mind, this craft is 30 feet in diameter, and he said that when he got inside this craft, it was cavernous. It was gigantic on the inside. He said that his exact quote were, "I could throw a football as hard as I possibly could and I wouldn't hit the other side." That's how the interior of this craft looked like. So was there some time distortion? That's my first question. Next question is, why did it need to be suspended off the floor? Why couldn't they just do this with it parked on the concrete floor of the hangar facility of this underground facility? Now, his job was to photograph the interior components, like these control panels and everything. And what we try to do is very hard to do, is we try to give people the impression of it being cavernous and gigantic inside, but on the outside, it's only about 30 feet in diameter. Now, once he was done taking the photographs of the interior, he was brought to another room where they were performing an autopsy on 3 alien corpses that were kind of in a medical laboratory environment. And he said that when they were making incisions, fluid was coming out of this body. So this is 1973, and this would be possibly connected to the underground tunnel maglev train system that we've talked about and what you've talked about as well.
Interesting. And you see the train right there, access into this underground base. But let me get into this factor. You said there's some fluid coming out of the ET or
Correct.
The being itself.
That's what he said.
Was there any color to the?
It was a darker type color.
Was there any color? Like, was it red?
Don't know. He just said a darker fluid came out of the body as they made the incision with the scalpel. And one other thing,
some people actually believe that these beings are like biological, but then they are also like they're cyborgish.
Yes,
and they could be robotic as well. Some kind of oil.
I've heard that as well.
Interesting.
Yep. Now, just to back up what you guys covered, it's been a year now since you did your underground base type thing. Yeah. Here's an interesting article. Subterranean, yep. LA to New York in half an hour, 10,000 mile an hour tunnel train plan developed. This is LA Times. So they've already been talking about this from 1972 time frame.
They've been talking about it.
Have
they done it? Elon Musk is talking about these underground tunnels, but this is the subterranean. Yeah, we broke that news. The Los Alamos papers of the schematics of the subterranean design. And again, right here in the New York Times right here, Los
LA
Angeles Times.
June 11th, 1972, they wrote the article. So if the article was written over 40 years ago and they're talking about procuring the technology, and when you throw billions of dollars in black budget funding into these programs, you're going to get something for your money.
And then it's exactly like this one here, where look at this pristine, tunnel that would be in the subterranean nuclear powered theory is that it would secrete all the material, so there wouldn't be any tail pile at the very end. It's melted
into the sidewalls, and there's no exterior out the back. That's correct. So, Blake, what do you think? I mean, just the implications of what this means is staggering. There's a whole world out there that we just are not privy to.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy, and they expect us not to investigate this or believe that they haven't gone further into this kind of experimental. We got to figure out this traffic situation. It's getting pretty messy. We've just been in LA for the past couple weeks. Nobody could get around. That's right. This would solve the problem pretty quickly. You got one more thing here, right?
We got another one here. Time frame on this one, it's 1951, Sierra Nevada mountain range. Okay, now there were some traffic workers who were working nearby when an American C-119 flying boxcar came by, and I did the measurements on this, and this is per the Leonard Stringfield case. I found out what the interior of the cargo bay is. That drove what the diameter of the saucer could be, and what this traffic worker said, that the Americans came to him and asked him for help as they were bringing this about 5.5 diameter dish-shaped craft into the back cargo bay of the C-119 flying boxcar. So again, this is another one of these crash retrieval cases. This thing was completely intact. There was no damage. And we need to see this information, Blake. We need to get to the physical hardware. We just cannot keep going down this road of lights in the sky. We need the physical evidence.
So if you're a betting man, Michael, would you say this was at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base right now in possession, or in the Pentagon?
It appears from all of these cases that Leonard Stringfield had procured that all roads appeared to lead to Wright-Patterson Air Force
Wright-Patterson.
However, there's other locations well too. Okay, so we've got Holloman Air Force Base, we've got MacDill Air Force Base, we've got Homestead Air Force Base, and Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, have all been alleged locations where the debris, body, and craft are stored.
There was rumor that we've heard from a whistleblower, and he's passed now, and we can't. We could only take his word for it, but he says that some of these craft have been purposely destroyed.
Really?
And buried, and destroyed, melted down, whatever, just so we can never play with it again. That we will never reverse engineer it. They felt that it was safer to destroy the evidence than to even have it in their assets. This is, again, just a rumor, but that would be sad, right, if they destroyed everything?
Well, I can't see the United States scientific community destroying the crown jewels. I just can't see it. It's possible, but I just can't see it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure these are in possessions, but then it could be just locked away in, like the Indiana Jones movie, just in a crate. Right. And we're not having scientists actually look into the propulsion, the meta behind the propulsion. What else you got here?
Okay, so
we have Ellison Onizuka. Is actually from our island, the Big Island of Hawaii. He passed during the Space Shuttle Challenger mission. But you say that Onizuka was privy to an ET film that they presented to him. Where and when did this happen?
Well, there was a researcher by the name of Chris Kofi who was friends with Ellison Onizuka, and this particular individual interviewed the Air Force pilot in 1973 at McClellan Air Force Base, where he claimed that he was put into an Air Force briefing room with about 12 other Air Force pilots, and they were sat down, the lights came off, and then all of a sudden a military personnel in the background switched on a projector, and then projected on the forward wall was a black and white movie, and what it depicted were two alien corpses on a slab, like there was an autopsy being performed, And this ran for about 3 minutes. There was no explanation about this whatsoever. And again, there was about 12 people there. When it was over, the lights came back on, the movie projector stopped, and there was absolutely no debrief about it whatsoever. It was completely silent. There wasn't a general who gave a debrief on it. They didn't give any description, and it just ended. But what's interesting is Leonard had contacted and cataloged at least 4 other cases where a very similar movie was shown in the same circumstances, like at these Air Force facilities where military pilots are there. At least 4 other times this has happened, so it's not completely unprecedented.
So you have a 4-star general right here observing as a patrons or whatever, watching this film. Onizuka's in there along with other pilots, but again, they're not given any indication of what they're about to see or any explanation of what they've just seen. So they're just like, get in the room, take a look at this film, and there you go. So why would they do that? Just to test them to see if they would keep their mouths shut, NDA, or?
It appears is that the government was trying to gauge the reaction of our top military pilots. Could they handle this new reality? Would it shake them to their core of their soul, or could they handle it? That's what it appears to me, yeah.
Incredible stuff, incredible insight, Michael. Appreciate you coming out.
No problem, no
hanging
problem.
out with us at Third Phase Moon. We're going across the United States, but you're our first stop, and we're so happy that we're able to go over some of this evidence, and hopefully it opens up the people's minds out there that we've got to demand answers to this event. So there's something going down, and damn, if we could get the film like what Onizuka saw, and the materials and these warehouses with the crash retrieval debris, things would change. Things would change quickly. Michael, keep up the good work.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks so much.
All right, man.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Good.